I was going to prove myself to others by finding something that I could be the best at. I thought that gold medal was necessary for me to be successful. Right now, I'm 100% committed, I'm 100% in, but I'm 100% in on the process. Taking success from every little step I made on that journey.
Who supported you and who did not understand what you were doing? Welcome back on the Canadian Dream Podcast. This is a truly special episode because today I am sitting here with the world champion. Just 2 weeks ago, he won the world championship in the 35 kilometer race walk, right?
Yeah.
I'm here with Evan Dunfee from Richmond in British Columbia. Welcome on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a joy to be here.
You walk way faster than most runners in the world.
Yeah, I like to describe race walking. Race walking, in Canada at least, race walking is a very niche event within athletics, within track and field. And so I get asked all the time, like, what is race walking? and I like to simply describe race walking as it's running with rules. So we're trying to get from point A to point B as fast as we possibly can. But unlike running, where you can do that flailing your arms or legs however you want, we have to sort of abide by these two rules. So one foot has to be visibly in contact with the ground at all times, and our leg has to be straight at the knee. So we have judges that watch us, make sure we're following those rules. But other than that, very much like running, all the aerobic components, we're still working just as hard. We're still pushing our bodies just as hard. We're just moving in a kind of silly, some might say, and unique way. The other way you can think of it is as the breaststroke of track and field. So you think about in swimming, you have your front crawl, your freestyle, which is your fastest stroke, and then you have breaststroke. Just as hard, just as it's more of a technical event. It's a little bit slower, and you're confined by, there's a couple of rules that necessitate you moving the way you move in breaststroke.
And you've been doing this for a long time. For what, 25 years, 20 years?
Yeah, 25 years. I started when I was 10 years old.
Now you're 35. You won two bronze medals, one in the Olympics, one in the World Championships, right? I say you want to correct me.
No, I won bronze at the World Championships in 2019. Those were in Doha and Qatar, and then came back in the 2021 Olympics in Tokyo. We raced up in Sapporo, but it was the Tokyo Olympics that I stormed home in the last little bit to win bronze in the 50 kilometer race walk. And we brought that with me today. I've got that proudly displayed there. So that was the one lifelong dream come true, staying on the Olympic podium.
And now you went back to Japan. 2 weeks ago, you just won the World Championships, gold medal. There's nothing better than that.
Now another of those childhood dream box checked. And I have an affinity for Japan, whether it be Tokyo or Sapporo. I clearly like racing there. It's brought me tons of good luck and good fortune. But yeah, to add world champion to my resume, to that list of achievements is, it was the most special day of my life.
I'm so excited to be here chatting with you today because I have so many questions. I used to compete as well. I was a runner. I didn't make it to the World Championships. I was training for the World Championships though. And when I was 18 and 19, that's when I quit. But I trained for 6 years. I was training 10 times a week. And I understand what it takes for someone to compete at a high level. So today I want to help our audience also understand that. And I want to talk about the sacrifices and the hard choices that you have had to do in your life, to make in your life. Dreams that you had and dreams that you might still have now. Nutrition, how you deal with pain and injuries. You are injured right now, by the way, right?
That sad, unfortunately, yes. Yeah.
So all those things, where do we start? Should we start with how it all started?
Yeah, I think that's a great place to start.
Your parents were athletes.
They were, yeah. So I grew up in a household. My dad was a swim coach. Like, he was a swimmer himself and then swim coach. So he coached at the Munich Olympics in 1972. My mom was a diver. She competed at Canada Games as a diver. And so growing up, like my brother and I grew up in a household where the Olympics were just normal. They weren't put up on a pedestal. They weren't this unattainable, far out thing. It was just a thing that dad went to. So that was really lucky for me because when I was, when I started this, when I was 9, 10 years old, when I started sort of track and field and trying to find the thing I could be good at, um, immediately the dream was go to the Olympics, win medals. You know, from the get go, that's always what I wanted to do. I kind of got into the sport because I wanted to find something I could be good at. I wanted to prove myself to others. It's hard to picture now. You mentioned when I walked in here that I was taller than I looked on TV, and I'm about 6'1". But growing up, I was the shortest kid in the class.
Really?
Up until about grade 9, grade 10, I was the shortest kid in the class, and I had this red curly hair and these big thick glasses, and I was kind of that quintessential picked on kid, the perfect target to be made fun of. And my solution, my strategy to that was I want to be the best at something. I was going to prove myself to others by finding something that I could be the best at. And I wasn't a very good student. I wasn't academically very gifted, but I had all this rambunctious energy. So I thought, okay, well, maybe sport can be that area that I try to prove myself in. And so that was really where it started. Was my journey in sport started with trying to find something I could be the best at and be good at. And um, lucky for me, I eventually found race walking and found something that I could excel at and become the best at.
Did you run before, long distance?
I did. So my journey into track and field really started with running. My elementary school, Kingswood Elementary in Richmond, had started a popsicle stick run. So every day at lunch, you go out, you run laps of the field, and for every lap you will run, you get a popsicle stick. You turn them into your teacher at the end of lunch, and uh, they record your progress. And if you run like 100K throughout the year, you get a little badge or a little trophy or something. And so I love this. I was trying to find what I could be good at. I was playing a bunch of like ball sports and team sports, and I wasn't very coordinated. So I wasn't very good at catching things, and I had these big, thick glasses. So if you can imagine that combination, it didn't work out in my favor too often. I got hit in the face with a lot of different balls, and I broke a lot of different glasses. And so for me, running was, oh, okay, well, I'll go give this a try. Worst case scenario, I don't get hit in the face with anything. So I don't break any glasses. And so I went out there that first day and I started running and I ran the entire 45-minute lunch hour. Um, got my 10 popsicle sticks and turned them into my teacher at the end of lunch. And she kind of looked at me like,
What?
you ran all these laps on your own? So I had that moment where I got to kind of pump my chest out a little bit and go, yeah, I did. Like feeling pretty good about myself. And so that was that first taste of like, oh, maybe I have something here. Maybe I have this endurance and maybe I can keep doing this. So I kept coming out day after day after day, running my laps. And after about a week, I ran 11 laps. So I improved. I'd run a whole lap more than I had the previous week. And I fell in love with that idea of like, whoa, wow, I worked really hard and the results were so easy to see. 11 is more than 10. I've gotten better. And I love that because playing team sports, in school, I was really struggling to connect my effort with outcome. I was trying really, really hard, but I wasn't necessarily seeing improvement. Or when you play team sports, you still need those teammates to pass you the ball to show.
And you need to score.
Exactly. Yeah. To showcase that you've improved or you've gotten better. Whereas running, this individual sport, it was so much easier for me to see my progress. And so I fell in love with that idea of being able to like connect the input to the output. And, at 10 years old, 9 years old, I didn't realize that's what I had fallen in love with. But when I look back on it now, that was what connected me to it. And I joined a track club and a year later started race walking.
And when was the moment where you started taking it really seriously?
I still don't try to take it too seriously.
Of course.
But no, but that
Imagine what it could accomplish if you took it seriously.
well, I mean, I think there's also a possibility that I would absolutely hate it.
By the way, how many Canadian records do you hold?
I think it's somewhere in the 20s now. Every distance, pretty much from 3K up to 50K.
So I'm looking forward to the day when you take it really
Well,
seriously.
see, that's the thing is I think I would say I'm fully committed to it. My training is everything. I'm meticulous, I'm methodical, and I'm 100% in on it. But I also need to make sure that I can laugh at myself and I can take a step back when I need to. And I think that idea in my head of I don't take it seriously isn't necessarily in the same sense as I'm not giving it everything, but
You're enjoying it.
I'm enjoying it. And I think if I ever felt like I was taking it too seriously or in my words, fully seriously, I might find myself getting trapped in that headspace that I used to be in. So when I was growing up, I'm kind of mentioned I was doing this to prove myself to others. That wasn't a great headspace to be in because I was so attached to the outcome. I was so focused on winning. Winning was how I defined success. And that didn't me no favors. That didn't help my confidence. That didn't help me grow as a person. That didn't help me win either. Most importantly, um, getting rid of that mindset and learning how to shift that focus to the process, which I'm sure we'll talk more about. But I think I run the risk of if I ever feel like I'm taking it too seriously, I feel like I'm running the risk in my own journey of falling back to that connecting things to the outcome too much, focusing too much on winning, on bringing these medals home. I think for me, that's what I think about when I think about taking it too seriously. Is right now I'm 100% committed, I'm 100% in, but I'm 100% in on the process rather than worrying about what that outcome's going to be. If that, I hope that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, it absolutely does. So when did you start getting fully committed?
Yeah. So university was probably when, starting university was kind of when
Where did you go to
I
university?
went to the University of British Columbia, so I studied kinesiology there, and that was probably the first time where training sort of started to take over as the main part of my life. Before that, I was training. I'd gone to World Under 18 Championships, World Under 20 Championships, and was progressing very well throughout my career. But I'd say, yeah, that start of university was when I started to understand you know, more the commitment that I needed to take that to that next level.
When I was running around the same age, let's say 14, I started when I was 13 and I quit when I was 19. Many people did not understand. Many people mocked me for running, and I was running long distance. I can't imagine how embarrassing it is for a race walker, right? Especially when you are training in the city, for example,
Mhm.
not in the mountains, not out, when people see you training and your colleagues or your classmates, your neighbors. So my question is, who supported you and who did not understand what you were doing?
You hit the nail on the head there with, there was a lot of ridicule. There was a lot of I had to get over myself a lot to go out there and train in my short shorts and wiggle my hips around town and all that. I mean, the irony is that I was chasing these big goals in sports. I wanted to prove myself to others, and I wanted to, kind of silence the kids that picked on me. Maybe didn't choose the right event if that was what I was seeking after, but I grew a really thick skin and I learned to embrace my journey for myself. But, when I think about the people that have been there, like my coach, Jerry Dragomir. So my first race walk ever, I was 10 years old. My brother had tried it and sort of enjoyed it. So I was sort of younger brother, if he can do it, how hard can it be type mentality. So I'd gone out to this race. He had shown me the technique. I had gone to this race. I ended up winning the race. And as this guy came up to me afterwards and said, "Hey, like you looked like you really enjoyed that." I coach a bunch of, older athletes, masters athletes, and people in their 50s. But if you ever want to come out and join us for a training session and learn a few drills and all that stuff, like you're more than welcome to come out and join us. And so that was Jerry who'd come to me and offered me that. And 25 years later, he's still my coach.
Oh, wow.
We've
Same guy.
been on this journey the whole time, and as I started to get better, he started to realize, "Oh, I need to learn how to become a better coach, and I need to, like, up my game as well." And so we've spent our whole careers with him always just trying to stay one step ahead of me, and together we went on to he was the Canadian Coach of the Year across all sports in 2016. He has his master's degree in coaching now. Like, we've been on this journey together the whole time, and, I think that's for him, like, when it comes to support outside of family who have always been, incredibly
Yeah.
supportive, he's the one that sticks out in terms of just people who have been there literally since the beginning.
And in your family, were your parents and your brother supportive?
100%. Yeah, my parents were all in.
Did your
Yeah.
parents try to change your mind? Maybe, maybe do this instead, maybe long distance.
Not so much. I think they were very happy when I quit soccer because it was wet and cold and miserable for them standing out and watching all those practices and all those games. Um, so they never said it, but I think they were pretty happy when I decided to choose more of a summer sport. um, but um, but no, they've always been incredibly supportive. They've always been all in. I had the incredible privilege of my family being able to put me into sport and to, if I didn't like something, try a different sport. And when I came to them, I had a bunch of friends playing hockey, and in grade 6, a lot later than most Canadians start playing hockey, I went to a game, I saw them play, and I went, I want to do this. And my parents, without missing a beat, got me registered, went and helped pick up some equipment and, borrow some used equipment, buy some new equipment. But like that's an immense privilege to be able to have the resources in my family that we could do that and they could support me.
And you don't need much equipment for.
Luckily for race walking, no. For track and field, for race walking, it's a very low equipment, low needs,
Very
which is
low.
nice.
You only need a pair of
Need a pair of shoes,
in your
which I'm not
case,
even wearing today. So
you can do it barefoot.
yeah. Got drenched on the walk in here from the bus, so the shoes are drying out currently.
Okay, explain. Yeah,
But no, but that support network is always my parents have been so always there, and they've been there literally the last few years coming to watch me compete. They were on the side of the road in Tokyo, watching me win that gold medal, which was really special.
Another thing that you remind me of is, because this is bringing me back to my old days as an athlete and student, is time management. Long distance, in your case, your training sessions have to be long by default. You can't just train for 30 minutes and okay, that's it. So you're training for 3 hours, for 2 hours, for 1.5 hours minimum. How was it for you to reconcile that with school, or when did you get your first job? Did you ever work?
I was very lucky that I didn't have very much outside of school and training. I was not the most social animal in university. So, and well, so the one nice thing about an individual sport like track and field is that most of my training was on my own. And so I could kind of dictate, whereas like our football team at UBC or any of the team sports, training was at this time. And so when you go to pick your classes, you had to pick your classes based on your training schedule. I was very lucky. I got to pick my classes that I wanted to take and build my training schedule around my school schedule. So that was really lucky. I feel like I benefited from that. I could fit training into my day rather than having to fit my day around training, which helped a lot. And then once I graduated university, I've been really lucky. I've been more or less a full-time athlete for the last 10 years. So this has been, I have a lot of volunteer and community commitments, but no, I've never worked a 9 to 5 outside of my training. So really for the last decade, it's been what's my training schedule? How do I fit those hours a day in? And then what can I do with my day around that?
And can you walk us through your training schedule?
Yes, I was up in the mountains before Tokyo. We were up in St. Moritz in Switzerland. Um, Absolutely picturesque, gorgeous place to train. And so the month of August, so for example, so that last big heavy month of training, I did about 720 kilometers
In a week?
walking in a month. Oh, okay. So it works out to be about 165, 170 kilometers a week.
Which is not too bad.
No, it's about 12 hours a week of walking, of start to finish, time on feet, in the gym for about 4 hours a week.
So how does the day look like? What time do you usually wake up?
Yes, and this is the one benefit of being a full-time athlete is I don't have to fit training in around being at work at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. So I can train at 8 or 9 o'clock, which is nice. So yeah, we would train sort of 8, 9 o'clock, get that first session in, and then you recover, stretch, all that sort of stuff for a couple hours later. There's a lot of days where there's a mid-afternoon nap in there as well because
Yeah, right.
recovery, as you know, like recovery is just as important as the training. So I think a lot of people have this misconception is that we go out there, we start our watch, we do our 2 hours, we finish our watch, and that's all of our training done for the day. But so much goes on behind the scenes, behind the training to make sure that when that next hard training session comes a day or 2 days later, we're ready for it. So tons of recovery. You're in the ice bath, you're in the compression boots or whatever fancy technology you have to help us
Cold water
recovery
too?
and
Cold plunge?
cold plunge. We did a lot of sauna training as well, just because we were trying to prepare for the heat in Tokyo. So we were in a 95-degree sauna for half an hour, 3 times a week, getting our body a little bit primed and ready for those conditions. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into training that isn't just the physical 25K or 30K walk that you do in a day type of thing.
What's your longest walk training
Yeah,
session?
so that's changed a lot since 50K, so the medal from Tokyo in the Olympics in 2021, 50K was my distance. The 50K no longer exists, unfortunately. We race over 20 and 35K, and so it's a bit different now. When I was training for 50K, I was doing 2 marathons a week in training. Wednesday and Saturday would be a 40 to 45K walk. Um, and it was awesome. The best feeling in the world. Winning races, all that stuff is amazing, but the best feeling I ever had with training, or I've ever had with training, is being so fit that I can go out there and walk a 3 hour and 20-minute marathon and just job done. What's else? What else do I do with my day? Like having that fitness where I knew my body was capable of something like that was the coolest thing ever. And it was honestly up there with winning world championships and stuff like that. Was knowing my body was capable of these amazing things is the best part about being fit. But now that I'm training for 20 and 35, I don't do those long 40 plus K walks anymore.
So what's the longest you
Longest I did in the build up to this 35K was a 35 kilometer walk, but mostly it's more 30Ks, 25 to 32 sort of kilometers is sort of the longest I'll go week in, week out.
And I remember for me, the training session that I dreaded the most, that I hated the most, was 10 times 400 meters
Mm,
running at around 1 minute, 1.2, and 100 meters jogging. That was the
yeah,
killer.
yeah,
Running
yeah.
400 meters is fine, 10 times fine, but this 100 meters jogging, that was the worst part. Is there a training session like that that you really do not look forward to?
Stuff like that. So those high intensity anaerobic workouts, like a 10 by 400, those are tough for me because I'm very much an aerobic. My engine is very large. And so I love being in that aerobic phase.
Long,
Long,
that rhythm.
consistent, doing long intervals, give me a 2K or a 3 kilometer rep. I'm happy with that. Those 400s, that's pushing myself to limits that I'm not always super comfortable with. But my favorite workout, it's a workout I do that I've done before our major races the last few years. It's a 8 by 2 kilometers hard with 500 meters easy. So that sort of you do 20K in total, 16 of it's going really hard, and then you got that 500 meters each rep to kind of catch your breath, recover. Still doing that at about 12 kilometers an hour, those recovery bits, but that's that workout that like makes me nervous, that I get kind of anxious for, and I love that. I love the workout. I crushed it this year, which was nice. Like it's always good for the confidence.
Yeah.
But that's one that I think when I have that on the calendar, it's something that I know exactly what day it's going to be on, and I start to feel nervous in the lead up to it, and it's a good workout when you start to feel nervous as it approaches.
So, two questions about the long walks. Where do you usually train? In Vancouver or Richmond? And is there one specific time of the day that you prefer to run at?
My event is one where people happen upon me in their daily life. I'm out on the road. So in Richmond, I'm out on the dike, I'm out on the greenway, I'm on the streets training around my city. And so people that are on their way to work in the morning, that are out walking their dogs, that are out doing their exercise, we just cross paths. And you don't get that with our other athletes. They're in the gym, they're on the track, they're somewhere where you need to purposely go to see them do the thing they're amazing at. And I absolutely love that people just sort of see me as part of their day. And I've gotten messages from people, they've gotten home, they've shot off an email saying, I was on my way home from work. I saw you training out in the rain and I knew that I had to do a run and I really didn't want to do it, but I saw you training. I thought, oh, Evan's out there. I can get my shoes on and get out there when I get home. And you get messages like that. And it's so cool to have that connection with the community. So I absolutely love it. I love being out on the streets, training throughout Richmond.
Do you walk on the street or on the sidewalks?
But I walk on the streets maybe a little bit more than I should. But Richmond's also, the traffic's not too bad in Richmond, so I can get away with it.
The
Uh,
traffic is not too bad in Richmond?
you go
What do you
you
mean?
go on the side streets. We have a lot of really good neighborhood like bike paths that kind of connect through our cul-de-sacs and have little footpaths that connect and all those sorts of things. And so people look
So
at my
you just
Strava.
explore.
Exactly, yeah.
So
People
you go, you have, oh, I have this. Today I'm going east.
exactly, yeah, yeah. I have sort of these set loops that work really well. And my friends, my other race walkers that I train with from other countries, will always be like, what the hell are you doing? And they'll look at my Strava and they'll see the map and it's all these little jagged turns and cut throughs and they're just like, where are you training? And I love it. I love being able to explore our neighborhoods and all that stuff. And time of day, I'm usually out there most a lot of days of the week. I'm out there twice a day. Um, but yeah, I'm not a super early morning person, and I don't like training in the dark. My rule of thumb for me in the winter, I don't like winter. So normally I head down to Australia in January to be in their summer.
Oh, you go to Australia?
Yeah, to
You
train. We'll
go.
do a training camp in Australia for 6 weeks or so, just so I can escape. Even Vancouver's winter is too wintry for me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, but my rule of thumb is dark, cold, and wet. I can deal with two of those, but if it's all three, I'm going on the treadmill. And so
Okay.
so I
You have
don't
one at home?
I don't have one at home. I live in a small one-bedroom apartment, but I live across the street from a community center. So if it's cold, dark, and wet, a lot of times they'll find me in on the treadmill. But if it's only two of those things, I'll dress for it and get outside.
Do you live by Minoru by any chance?
I'm not too far from it. I'm about a mile from it.
Minoru is amazing.
Yeah, so great facility. I mean, Richmond is blessed with amazing community centers. Minaru Park's a great asset to have, and this giant park in the middle of our city
I
is
drove
awesome.
from Vancouver with my friend to go to the pool and to the sauna
Oh,
at
perfect.
Minoru. Oh,
Yeah,
it's amazing.
yeah. No, we're really lucky. So yeah, there's no shortage of great facilities for me to utilize in Richmond, and that Minaru track there, that Clement track. It's the busiest track I've ever seen. You can't, you go there,
Easy
you
sometimes.
sometimes too busy. I've definitely had to use my outside voice to clear lane one on occasion when I've been doing fast stuff. But it's so cool to see stuff like that be utilized by the community.
Do you have anybody else on your team besides your head coach to help you mentally, or a nutritionist, physiotherapist?
Yeah, yeah. So my physio, Mary Lou Lamy, she's been my rock in terms of keeping my body put together and her insights. And again, someone, I'm so lucky. My entire team is full of people who love learning, who never rest on the knowledge they have today. And so Mary Lou is always exploring new treatment techniques, new gadgets that can help her and help us, and just always exploring what else is out there to help her athletes. And I say she's terrible at business. She's a horrible business person because she cares so much about her athletes and making sure that they can be at their best. That if it hit, she's lost a lot of income opportunities by going out of her way to make sure her athletes are taken care of. And I mean, we obviously love her for that. And there are times where I'm being like, Mary Lee, we gotta find some ways for you to to monetize this a little bit more. You spent 30 grand on this piece of equipment that you're not charging us to use. Her joy that she gets as a physiotherapist is seeing us be our best and get to showcase ourselves. And same with my strength coach. My strength coach, Devin Goldstein, absolutely loves to be a part of that team, and it's so collaborative, whether it's Jerry and Devin chatting, or Devin and Mary Lou chatting. Everyone understands that they're part of this team and no one part is superior. So there's so much collaboration that goes on constantly. The other piece to it is my mental health support. So Kirsten Barnes is my sports psych. Again, just so integrated, so a part of that team, always there when I need her. So I'm so lucky. I have a world-class team.
Let's talk about the psychologist in just a bit. But before, uh, your body, what challenges have you faced? Have you ever needed the physiotherapist to fix something that was really malfunctioning, or did this sport cause a lot of damage to your body?
There's an irony in me saying this because I'm very lucky that I've not dealt with a ton of injuries in my life. Dealing with one right now, unfortunately. But so much of what we do at the sharp end of the stick performance wise is optimization. So it's not necessarily that we're coming in and we're trying to fix something that's broken, but we're trying to trying to see, okay, can we get different pieces working together more harmoniously? Can we get a fraction of a percent better efficiency out of alignment, out of making sure we're freeing up, little things like making sure my breathing muscles are nice and loose so that I can, get that little bit more, maybe an extra liter of volume into my lungs type of thing. Like those tiny little adjustments that you're trying to make are all part of that holistic picture. And then when I am injured, like I am now, I very unfortunately, with 2 kilometers to go in that 35K race in Tokyo, tore my hamstring pretty badly. So if there's a clip from the race that you can see, I actually like grabbed my hamstring and I'm sort of shouting in pain, and I actually had to stop for a second and stretch. And once I did that, I realized I don't know what this is going to achieve. My leg is still there. Finish.
And you were first.
I had just moved into the lead. I had moved into the lead about 10 minutes earlier, and we had about 10 minutes to go. And so I was still about 10 minutes from the finish line, and I just remember being like, "Oh my, well, what now? What? What do I do? How do I do?" Like it was the worst pain I've ever been in my life.
What happened?
So I think that's just fatigue, and trying to will my body in super hot conditions, and I just pushed my body a little bit over the edge, and unfortunately, yeah, it's a grade 2 tear. So not a fun injury to be having, but I remember in that moment just thinking, and this comes back to so much of the sports psych training that I had and the work with Kirsten, is I remember thinking, okay, well, if I can get 1 step, I can get 10 steps. If I can get 10 steps, I can get 100 steps. If I can get 100 steps, I can finish this race. And so that first thought was just, okay, get through that next step. And it was, okay, get through 10 steps. All right, get through 100 steps. Okay, you can finish this.
So cool. I love listening to things like this. Oh, amazing. And how far ahead were you?
I think at the most, I think I had gotten to about 45 seconds.
And then did you see anybody catching up?
So that was
Tayo?
very stressful because Caio Bonfim, Brazilian athlete who was in second place, was closing that gap. So there was about 2 kilometers to go, just under 2 kilometers to go. And when I came around that top corner, because we race on a loop, so we race on a 2 kilometer loop. So we're doing laps. So you have that opportunity every time you turn around to see where the person is in relation to you. So I remember turning that corner and just like,
He's coming.
just when I saw him come in, I was like, okay, all right, I was about 150 meters at that point. Okay, if I close in this time, okay, I don't think he can close that fast. Okay, I just gotta maintain the pace I'm going. And I think I'm okay. I think I'm okay. And then that next moment was I came into the stadium and had a big screen, and I could kind of see myself on the screen, and I couldn't see anyone behind me yet. So I was like, okay, this is a good sign. And then with about 200 meters to go, I turned around and saw that Caio had just entered the stadium, and so I knew then that I was going to be able to make it to the finish line and
So
have
cool.
that victory. But it was still, I don't think I was still thinking about how much pain I was in up until about 5 steps to go. And then I kind of switched over to thinking how happy I was that I'd won. But I don't think the thought of winning really crossed my mind until I was about, throwing distance to the finish line.
So that 35-kilometer walk, I keep saying race, thinking race, walk. What were you thinking before the race? Where were your thoughts at during the race? And then how did you feel after you crossed that line? Because I told you when I texted you first, you could not stop smiling. Yeah.
I'm also very lucky, and people always think I'm smiling in the races because my grimace face and my smile have a lot of overlap.
Oh,
So
that's why.
I get away a lot of times if people think, oh, like he looks so happy. And I'm like, that was a pain face, but I'm glad it looked happy.
That's what it is.
But going into this race was very different. For me,
Did you think you were gonna get a medal?
well, so this is it. So I was lucky enough in March to set the world record in this event, in the 35K race.
You were lucky, huh?
It was a good race. It was a very good race. I was in very good shape. I lost the world record a couple months later. Athlete from Italy, Massimo Stano, obliterated my record, took like almost a minute off of it in a race. And very unfortunately, Massimo wasn't able to compete at World Championships. He had torn his hamstring in training the month earlier. And so going into the race, I was the favorite. I had the fastest time on paper. There's a Japanese athlete who was about 7 seconds slower, whose record I had broken. But home world championship, so the pressure's on him as well. So it was different for me. I'm not
Japanese ended in third?
a different Japanese athlete ended up in third.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Um, but for me, this was a very new territory. I'd always thrived on being the underdog, going into races as
Everybody does.
yeah, 100%. And
So much better to be the
it's
underdog.
such a liberating feeling. And for me, I always so my previous medals had come in Doha and in Tokyo in the Olympics in 2021. Both races were exceedingly hot. In Doha, we raced at 11:30 at night to avoid the sun. So we raced until 4 o'clock in the morning, and it was still 30 degrees and 75% humidity. And that was a race where I came from behind and I moved into third late in the race and dealt with the conditions really well. Same with Tokyo at the Olympics. It was 35 degrees. It was humid. It felt like 43 or 44 degrees by the finish. Um, and again, I thrived on those conditions because those conditions to me help the underdog. They're an equalizer. Perfect conditions, the most fit, most genetically talented athlete is going to fare the best. Hottest conditions, it's going to be the smartest athlete. It's going to be the athlete that
The
that
survivors.
that paces themselves properly, that does all the little things right. And so for me, I always thrived on that. Bring on the hardest conditions possible because that's going to help me. What was so different about this race in Tokyo was that that thought never crossed my mind. I was so confident in my fitness, in where I was at, that I didn't care what the conditions were. Give me a perfect day, give me hot conditions. I wasn't thinking about the weather. I wasn't checking the weather obsessively like I had been in the past. I was just ready. And that was such a cool place to be in when I look back on it and how different that was from my other Olympic and World Championship successes was that big difference was that feeling of like, bring it on, whatever the conditions are, as opposed to like, get hotter, be hotter, be hotter. It turned out that the conditions were ruthless in Tokyo for the world champs. We competed. It was, I think by the end, it was in the 30s, I think, but it was also like 80% humidity. Like the
That's very
humidity was what killed. So
20 degrees would be great.
okay.
18, 20
It,
is ideal.
ideal, yeah, probably 15, 14, somewhere in that range. And you saw it, I wasn't in first place until 30 kilometers. I was sitting back off the pace and quite a ways back. And
Yeah, you were competing smartly.
yeah, and everyone watching back home that knows me and knows how I race, that's what they thought. They thought, oh, Evan's just doing his thing. He's waiting. He's biding his time. He's going to come through at the end. Me during the race did not feel that way at all. So this is the funny bit is that during that race, I thought I was not feeling great. I was trying to bridge that gap to those leaders because I would have athletes who would catch up to me and they would pass me and they would go and catch the leaders. And every time that happened to me, it happened 2 or 3 times, I would try to go with them and catch back up. And I was like, "Oh, I can't." And I was like, and I feel like I was kind of pushing over that edge, so I had to slow back down. And so for most of this race, I thought I was maybe fighting for 3rd at best, but probably 4th or 5th. And and then all of a sudden, the race just imploded around me. The guys that were up at the front, one of them picked up a time penalty for breaking the rules in the eyes of the judges, and the 2 Japanese athletes had just pushed themselves a little too hard. The former world record holder, who was in that race, Masatora, he just he overheated. His body started to, you know, our bodies are very good at regulating our temperature. We do not like it if our core temperature gets to a certain point. Our body will shut us down. And so his core temperature just inched up over that level, and you saw his body start to shut down. So he amazing. He finished. He finished the race, which is insane. So he went from first to 19th in the last 5 kilometers. He walked his last 5 kilometers in over 30 minutes, which had going from walking around 21 minutes to a 30-minute 5K to finish up. And he came across the finish line and he collapsed and you could see his legs were spasming and cramping and just the tenacity for him to finish was incredible. And for myself as well, I feel pretty dang proud that I finished given the injury I had. But it's always remarkable when
You told me about how you felt for the past 2 kilometers, and then when you entered the stadium, what is it actually like? Because most people, let's say 99.99999999999% of the world will never know. They will never know what it's like.
it, it's hard to describe. The first thing I saw when I came out of the tunnel into the stadium, my brother, his wife, and my parents were sort of standing at the gate up in the stands right there. So that was really cool. I got to see them waving the flag.
You saw them?
Yeah, going crazy. That was really
You could
cool.
spot them, or did you know?
Yeah, they were like right on. They were hard to miss, to be honest. Um, but yeah, that was really special.
And what did they shout to you?
Oh, I could not tell you what they said. Yeah, I could not tell you what they said at all. But just being able to see them there was really cool. And um, yeah, like, coming across that finish line and just sort of that, there was a ton of relief. That was probably the first feeling that kind of set in was,
Mission accomplished.
or just like, oh, I made it. Like I got to that finish line. Like there's this parallel feeling of joy, of excitement, of thrill. But I think it was matched by this feeling of like, oh, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Like that would have been really
Now
bad. Like
the pain is gonna stop.
yeah. It's really over the next day and days that that feeling of accomplishment really starts to set in. But I think for me, what's most important and what I'm most proud of when I look back on it is that the feeling of winning that gold medal, of achieving that dream wasn't anything more overwhelming than I felt throughout chasing my dream. You know, the pride that I've had, the sense of accomplishment I've had chasing that dream has given me equal joy to achieving it. Does that make sense? I think for so long I was caught up when I was a kid, when I started off in this journey, all the way up until I was in my 20s. I was so focused on that gold medal. I thought that gold medal was necessary for me to be successful. I thought it would define me. I thought it was everything. I thought without it I was a failure. And the last 10 years of my career have been spent entrenched in the joy of the process of taking success from every little step I made on that journey. And I always wondered whether or not this was a coping mechanism to be okay with not winning the gold medal. And like, what would I actually feel like if I did win the gold medal? And I'm so happy and so proud to know that that didn't, that having the gold medal didn't really change any of that, that it's still the process. It's still the like, you know, one of the first things, I think that's the best way to describe it, is one of the first things I thought in the days after the race was like, okay, what's next? Like we've reached this pinnacle. We've reached this thing I've been dreaming about for 25 years. And I think I maybe scared that if I was so focused on on that outcome, that once I achieved it, maybe I'd be done. Maybe I'd have nothing left to push towards. But it's been the opposite. It's been like, okay, well, this is one box check. This is really cool and really special, but I think I still have potential left in me. And so how can I continue to improve? How can I continue to chase? What are the next goals? What are the next big things we can set for ourselves so that we can keep chasing this dream and keep this dream alive? I think that's been what's really, really been what's given me the most sense of satisfaction in the days and weeks since the race is realizing that that's how I feel, and that there's still a hunger, there's still a desire to be my best, and I don't think I've gotten there yet.
And you're 35.
35, yeah, which is old for an athlete.
It is, but you're getting better.
I feel like my training age isn't 35. I feel like I still have a lot of good years left in my body. Um, uh, Maybe not specifically in this moment while I'm sitting here being like, oh, my hamstring's pretty sore. But overall, in the grand scheme of things, you know, looking ahead to Tokyo, or sorry, to LA Olympics in 2028, and just imagining what's possible there if I can keep on this train and keep improving and keep focus on that process of getting every ounce of me that I have in me. Yeah, it's exciting to think what the possibilities are.
When you think about the location, Los Angeles is gonna be much better, more beneficial for you training here on the west coast of Canada, same time zone, right? Very short distance, similar weather if it's in the summer.
In one hand, I mean, we normally do our training camps in Europe ahead of time. So Paris, for example, Paris last summer for the Olympics, I was in Europe for 6 weeks beforehand.
Always in Switzerland?
And yeah, usually in St. Moritz for our altitude camp, and then somewhere hot for a heat camp in those last 2 weeks. So we were in Barcelona last year. There's one element of it. There's a big change. It's like, okay, where are we gonna go to train before LA? Because it seems silly to go to Europe to come back to North America. So there's opportunity
A lot
there.
of people go to Bolivia. or Ecuador?
Yeah, there's some, yeah, good training facilities.
There's a lot of good runners
There's a
in
lot of good runners.
Brazil
Yeah.
and Ecuador.
Um, to me, it's too high of altitude. So I love the 1800 meter. This is getting really technical and really nerdy, but that 1800 meters to kind of 2000 meters is sort of my sweet spot. I feel like for training. Some of the training the facilities in Medellin, for example, you're at close or in Bogota, you're close to 3000 meters. It's super high elevation. Um, but in North America, there's some options too. I mean, Flagstaff is a personal favorite, or is a favorite for many athletes. Boulder, Mammoth Lakes, tons of different options that we're going to explore the next couple of years as we prepare for LA and find what works for us. And yeah, then just we like to make sure nothing's new in the Olympic year. So, for example, for the Rio Olympics in 2016, we stayed in the exact same apartment in St. Moritz as we did in 2015. So we knew every appliance that was there. We knew every nook and cranny of that place. We knew how long it took to get to training. All of those things were like solved for going into it. So that in that Olympic year, we really put that emphasis on nothing new. Everything's tried and tested and true, and we know it works and we know it's good for us, and we can just take one less stress away, because the Olympic year brings with it so many more stresses. So we'll spend the next couple of years figuring out what 2028 will look like.
In 3 years, my goodness, in 3 years when you're training, it feels like forever.
Athletes.
How many kilometers are you gonna
Oh my
walk
goodness. Yeah, I mean,
in the next
we're
3 years?
we're 20,000 kilometers away from LA, something like that. Yeah, athletes are very good. Olympic athletes are very good at planning their lives in 4-year increments, and I'm lucky enough. I'm getting married in a couple weeks time from now, and uh, on thank you so much, on our team on the Canadian team in Tokyo, there was 3 of us that were getting married within this next 2-week period, because you plan your life around training. So competition season ends end of September, and there was, yeah, 3 of us that are were getting married in this short time period. So it's funny how when you surround yourself with athletes, you kind of like, oh yeah, we all kind of have the same life planning stages that we go through, and
And
uh,
do you wanna have kids?
oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah, that's,
What do you wanna teach your kids?
I think, first and foremost, I want to be able to give my children the privileges that I was lucky enough to have, which is a lot. That's a big ask, because my parents provided so much for me.
Emotional support or
E-
physical?
everything. Just the availability of opportunity. I was so lucky to benefit from it, and it feels like that's the least I can do. But in terms of what I'm not going to be someone who pushes my kids into sport. I don't want to ever feel like,
But your kids are gonna learn very soon that Olympics are just that place where daddy went to.
for sure, certainly being active, certainly having an outlet, some sort of thing that's physical, that I think is so important. I think every kid should have those fundamental movement skills, should learn how their body moves in space, all those things. But organized sport is not anything. I don't ever want to feel like I'm forcing my future kids into anything.
There's a fine line between being supportive and putting pressure, especially if you are a high performer.
100%. And I never felt an ounce of pressure from my parents. My dad he coached my baseball teams growing up, and stuff like that, and it was great. And we thrive again. He never the competition was never the goal. He was always about building a team, and he, for example, and this is part of what I've learned from my dad, is taken of my dad, and instilled in myself. And those baseball meetings at beginning of every year, when all the coaches would come in and they'd argue over which players they wanted. I had hated the politics of that. He absolutely hated it. So you'd go to those meetings, you'd say, okay, well, I'm coaching my son, so he's going to be on my team, and I'm coaching with this person, so his son's going to be on my team. Give me whoever's left. I don't care. I'm not being a part of this, and would leave the meeting. And so we'd always have this ragtag group of the kids no one wanted, right, to start the season, and we would always be the worst team out the gate. But he would bring us together as a team, and by the end of the year, every single year my dad coached me, we were in the championship game. And it wasn't because we were the best players individually. It was because we played the best as a team. Um, and so just that mentality of like, everyone has strengths, and we're going to lean on your strengths to, to help the team. That's something that ethos, that mentality is something that I want to pass on to my kids, whether it's in sport or whether it's in, theater or whatever avenue they choose to pursue their interests in. That idea, I think, transcends sport. That we all have something we bring to the table and that we can contribute to the team.
So let me ask you a few questions. From your career as an athlete, biggest lesson you have learned?
Set really big goals, set like dream really big, and then your success isn't defined by whether you get there or not. Your success is defined by, did you did you chase that goal with everything you had? Um, that's what's given me the most confidence. That's what's given me the most joy, and that's what's helped me grow the most as a person in my journey. Is that mentality, and I think that's, yeah, the most powerful thing I've taken away.
And the biggest mistake you have made in your career?
Oh, I mean, there's a lot of racing mistakes I've made.
It's usually racing or training, or picking someone for your team.
And also, not adopting that mentality, that previously mentioned mentality 10 years earlier, is a mistake that I wish I could undo. I wish I wasn't so focused on winning when I was a teenager and when I was a young adult. Um, my parents literally took 2 cars to the hockey rink because I was so miserable to be around. They would fight over who to drive me home if we lost. Like, I was such a sore loser, and I wish I could have those years back where I wasn't so focused on winning and so miserable in that pursuit.
You say it out loud now that this is not what you're pursuing anymore, but maybe you need to have that in you in order to become the world champion.
It's possible. I mean, I think what I say now to, especially, I do a lot of school talks. I've spoken to a lot of school kids, and I never want to steer anyone away. I think there's a lot of people talk about, oh, well, you shouldn't have outcome goals, or your goal shouldn't be to win, or this, that, or the other thing. And I don't think that's the takeaway I ever want to give. My goal is still to be the best. I want to win gold medals and break world records. I think it's totally okay to have objective goals like that. I certainly do. I think the fine line and the difference is in how we define success, right? So making sure you're not defining success based on, did I achieve that goal or not. Rather, you're basing success on, okay, well, where did I get to in that journey? And I think that's the big thing I always talk about with the kids is that, yeah, so, your success is every little bit of progress you make along the way. Your success isn't this black or white endpoint. Your success is everything up to that point. And
And progress is also happiness. That's what Tony Robbins liked to say. In our daily lives, you make a little bit of progress, you're engaged, you're excited, and when you stop progressing, it's when you leave a gap for sadness.
100, yeah, 100%. And progress can look a million different ways, right? Like,
Mhm.
that's the other thing is, no one else gets to define what progress looks like for you. You define what progress looks like for you. And I think sport's an interesting one because sport is so easy. Sport is so objective, right? Sport is, okay, I finished third at the world championships. Now I finished first at the world championships. So I've improved. I've made progress. But there's so much behind the scenes that you can use for progress. Like, I've felt like I've seen tremendous progress in races that I did very poorly in. You can choose to take progress out of failure. You can find and so for me, one thing that I did that really helped change my mindset away from this winning is everything mentality is a task that my sports psych had me doing that was every day, write down something positive from training. Could have been the worst training session ever. I could have tied my shoes together and tripped the second I got out the door, right? Forced myself to find something positive out of that. And that chore, that task of every day, even if I thought it was the worst session ever, finding one little thing positive out of it has become so ingrained and so automatic for me now that it's so easy to find those bright spots, to find those little bits of like things I can take away and say, okay, well, this big picture sucked, but like this, and this little bit were great, and so I'm gonna choose to focus on those things and take some joy out of I did those things right at least, and we'll improve the big picture tomorrow.
Training is very important, genetics, nutrition, all of that. But the mindset is what truly separates the winners from the rest. Do you agree?
Certainly, I think sport is a tricky one because genetics is such a big role at the sharp end of the stick. When you're talking about Olympic podiums and you're talking about, even qualifying for the Olympics, the best mindset in the world isn't going to trump genetics to a certain extent. So it's always tricky. So I'm always trying to find lessons in my journey that can transcend sport, that can be meaningful in any area, any goal, any dream someone's chasing after. Um, because I find sometimes sport as a medium doesn't necessarily translate because there is that component that is just hard to ignore. It's impossible to ignore. Um, I have a VO2 max of roughly 75 um, mils per kilo per minute, and a big chunk of that I was born with. Right, that's just an inescapable truth. And without having that big engine, without having that big VO2 max, there's only so much I could do in endurance sport. So you have to caveat with that. You have to have that realization. But that said, you know, the journey, the process of setting goals, of setting dreams, of chasing after them, that is true of anyone in any area, in any space. And so I think there are tons of things that can be lent from the sport world, from the elite sport world, and shared across, and that transcend that tiny little world.
So, Evan, a lot of our audience here are people who are trying to find their way in Canada, who are pursuing their dreams, or who have given up on their dreams because things happen, life happens. What would a world champion sitting here on our podcast like to say to those people who are finding it difficult to find out what they want and to reach that goal?
The biggest thing is like really sitting in that process of what you want, what is the goal, what is your dream, and it has to be individual. It has to be. It can't be what anyone else wants you to do. It can't be what you think other people want you to do. It if you're going to really, really put everything into a dream that's necessary for it to come true, it has to start from within. It has to be that burning desire from within that sparks that dream. And so I think that biggest place is that starting point, just making sure, sitting with that, is this what I want? And if it is, if you have that spark that is there, then nothing is stopping you from going out there and starting that journey. Um, yeah.
Very few people have felt like giving up as much as someone like you have. 15 years competing. I'm sure you have thought about giving up and quitting and stopping hundreds or thousands of times. So, what is there a secret for not giving up? How do you go one step at a time?
I've always come back to the feeling that I have a potential that I haven't reached yet. I don't want to step aside. I don't want to quit until I know that I've done everything I can to exhaust that potential. That's been my centering point whenever I felt like, oh, this might be the end. So, perfect example, 2021 Olympics, last ever 50K race, win the bronze medal. I'm the endurance guy. I'm the long distance guy. The shorter stuff I'm not very good at. So, no more 50K. I feel like my career might be over. But give another crack in 2022, gain a little bit of confidence. I won the Commonwealth Games. It was a 10,000-meter race, 10-kilometer race. Won that and kind of was like, oh, maybe I can be a little bit faster. Maybe I can be the speed guy still. And that was really what reset that spark. So for me, 2022 was a really tough year. Motivation was down in the dumps. I was really struggling to get out and train and stay motivated because I didn't feel like I had that potential still. I felt like the 50K, I convinced myself the 50K was the only arena in which I was ever going to succeed. And with that being gone, what was the point? Where was my potential to go? And it wasn't really until, for me, it was a lot of other people believing in me. And finally, I said to myself, I literally said to myself, well, these people who I love believe in me. I don't really believe in me, but maybe I should just not listen to myself today. I'm going to listen to those
I
people.
love that.
And I decided going into that race at Commonwealth Games, I decided I'm not going to listen to me anymore. I'm going to listen to them, and they believe in me. So I guess I believe in me now too. And I won that race, um, and that was a big breakthrough for me. And that was the spark that ignited the spark again of like, okay, I have potential that is still there that I'm not done with. And went on in 2023 to finish 4th at the World Champs in the 20K race, so the shorter race, and backed it up with 4th again in the 35K race. And then last year at the Olympics, I was 5th place, battling severe illness, and had gone into that race thinking I had what it took to win that race, and didn't get to perform to my potential, and that made me so hungry. And this year has all been about redemption, about redeeming myself from not living up to where I thought my potential was last year because of an unfortunate illness, and it paid off. If we got there, and as I said earlier, I still don't feel like I've reached that potential yet, though. I'm still hungry. I still think there's more that my body is capable of doing. So that's what really drives me.
Thank you. It's been amazing chatting with you. I want to know, where should people find you if they want to reach out? Do you want to go to schools and talk to people? Can people reach out if they want you to speak at an event, for example?
Yeah. So school talks, I'm always happy to do. Excuse me. Usually try to do my school talks as a fundraiser. So Kids Sport is a charity that I'm super involved with. They help break down those barriers so that every kid can play sport. So they're really close to me. So whenever I do my school talks, I try to do them as a fundraiser. So happy to do them at no charge to myself. But we try to do them as a small fundraiser for Kids Sport. So whether it's a Kids Sport chapter in your area or Kids Sport British Columbia, happy to do those. Starting to do corporate talks. So anyone who would be interested in having me come in and chat to their workforce, or
Where should they find you? On LinkedIn?
I should start using LinkedIn. I'm very bad at social media. My email is just evandunfee@gmail.com.
Okay, we can put your email here in the
Email
description.
there. That's the best place. And then Instagram, for following along on my journey, Instagram's probably the best place. It's just at Evan Dunfee. Trying to get better at posting there and bringing people along on the journey.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Let's go take some photos with the medal on, etc. So thank you for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And if you did, remember to share it with anybody you think would also get inspired by this podcast episode, like I am. Let's go for a walk now.
Perfect. Let's do it.
Thank you so much. And remember to subscribe, and I'll see you on the next episode.